MapDad here. Now, in our second year of pseudo-empty nesting with both kids in college, a chance to travel somewhere I'd never been. With economy flights cheaper to Europe than what it would cost to fly one kid home for the holidays, MapDad and MapWife headed to Spain. Now, this video will cover the first part of our adventure, Madrid and Toledo. Landing early in the morning in Madrid, there are a number of ways to get to the center of the city. Taxi, express bus, but MapDad likes using mass transit whenever possible. It wasn't the most direct route on the metro, but 2 transfers later, we arrived before the sun came up in the Barrio de las Letras neighborhood, the literary quarter where many famous writers once lived. A Metro multi-card with 10 trips plus the initial card cost and airport surcharge cost €17.95. Now that was cheaper than a 4-day tourist ticket at €22.60. Our choice for a hotel was a splurge. Down Calle de Echegarri is the Grand Hotel Ingles. Built in 1886, it was the first luxury hotel in the city. Now, by signing up for the rewards program and paying the full bill in advance, it took 45% off the cost. We stayed in a suite that had a separate sitting room and an outdoor jacuzzi that, even in early December, I used often. Now, it cost about €625 per night. That includes all taxes. €1 right now is about $1.10, so add 10% for a good approximation in dollars. An overnight flight from the States means MapDad out to greet the day and try and minimize jet lag. I took one adventure, walking from the hotel first through the Puerto del Sol, a central location in the heart of the city where a number of metro and commuter rail lines converge. It's where you find the bear statue, a longtime symbol of the city. Another 5-minute walk southwest and you find yourself in the Plaza Mayor, one of the most popular gathering places in the city. Plaza Mayor dates back to the 1600s. Many of the buildings here are private apartments. Now, there was a Christmas bazaar in place and plenty of dressed-up characters looking to take selfies with you for a few euros, kind of like what you see in Times Square in New York. And one thing I was told by many who'd been to Spain was to be aware of pickpocketers. No issues for me, fortunately. After the Plaza Mayor, I made my way over to the Royal Palace, believed by many to be one of the grandest in Europe after Versailles. Built by Philip V, for 3 centuries it served as the place for pomp and circumstance. The royal family today lives a few miles away. And with 2,800 rooms, the palace is a feast for the eyes. Hungry after walking the palace grounds, I found a spot for lunch. La Boteria, across from the palace, where I had the menu del dia, the menu of the day. For €20, a 3-course meal starting with a delicious soup, followed by a pork rib entree and ending with a brownie for dessert. Now, after that, the jet lag started to kick in, and so I headed back to the hotel walking the Gran Via. It's sort of Madrid's version of Fifth Avenue in New York, or maybe the Magnificent Mile in Chicago. Lots of shopping if you want, but I needed to prepare for day 2. Madrid has 3 major art museums. If you plan to see them all, you can buy an art walk ticket online for a small discount of €32. The plan to conquer 2 museums on this day. The first stop was the Thyssen-Bornemisza, a German industrialist who had married up Miss Spain, sold his entire art collection for $350 million to the city to establish the museum. Now, what you see here are minor works by major artists, major works by minor artists. It skews more modern, but it's a good collection to take in. From there, it was essentially across the street to the Prado, one of the grandest museums in all the world. Really nothing in here beyond the 19th century, but what is here, oh my. It certainly heightened my appreciation for old Spanish masters like Goya and Velázquez. Now, I've been fortunate to see the Mona Lisa in Paris, and here it is Velázquez's Las Meninas that draws the crowds and takes your breath away. Dinner would be back in the hotel and its restaurant. No tapas yet, that's in the next video in the next city. The next morning began with a multiple plate run through of the hotel breakfast buffet, which was included in the room rate. Potato omelet, fresh fruit, croissants, just delicious. I always save room for the chocolate-filled puff donuts. I needed the energy for what I figured would be my favorite museum, the Reina Sofia. I walked the 15 minutes from the hotel to the museum and instantly saw why I was so glad I'd bought my ticket in advance. The line's extremely long to get in. But MapDad also missed here. I assumed my tickets would give me entry into a special Picasso exhibition inside. I was wrong. When I tried to buy a separate ticket, they had sold out for the day. However, I would not miss the Picasso masterpiece, Guernica, the artist's interpretation of the indiscriminate bombing of civilians that was allowed to happen in 1937 during the time of the Spanish Civil War. It is a piece that, without trying to sound pretentious, swallows you in. Day 4 was a chance to get out of Madrid to visit a small historic city where people of all faiths once lived in harmony hundreds of years ago. Toledo is just a 30-minute train ride from Madrid, 11 euros each way. Now, the phrase Holy Toledo, as far as I can tell in my research, deals with the city in Ohio, perhaps because of the large number of churches on a particular street. But the city here in Spain, Holy Toledo. The Toledo Cathedral, absolutely mesmerizing. Built in 1226, it's considered the spiritual heart of the country. From the high altar to the choir, so much to take in. 10 euro admission, well worth it. Now, I bypassed the small, separate El Greco Museum and made a 4 euro donation at the Santo Tomé Chapel. That allows you to see one of El Greco's most famous works, the Burial of the Count of Orgaz, right where it was painted. Now, hundreds of years ago, there was a thriving Jewish population here. Built in 1361 by Muslim craftsmen with the approval of the Catholic Church, the Transito Synagogue, it's still standing, and there's also a small museum of Jewish artifacts. Now, it's one of 2 old synagogues in the city. The Santa Maria la Blanca Synagogue became a church in 1391 after the expulsion of the Jews and was renovated in recent years. For lunch, I recommend Restaurant Placido, a bit more expensive than many of the restaurants that cater to tourists, and there are tourists everywhere, even in early December. Now, this wraps up the first part of MapDad's Spanish adventure. Part 2 will grab a high-speed train and see another fantastic city. I'm MapDad, hoping to point your travels in the right direction.